Paul Pape, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Rich, how are you?
I'm doing all right. I appreciate
Excellent.
you coming on and sharing your story with the creative community. There's a lot to your story and where you're at currently, and I
Yeah.
think it's going to be highly valuable, the conversation. Let me give you a brief introduction here for the audience
Okay.
so they kind of get a feel for who you are before we dive into the conversation. You are an artist and a designer with over 20 years of crafting custom collectibles for Disney, Nickelodeon, Universal, and The Tonight Show. You're a TEDx speaker where you delivered a popular TEDx talk on being Santa for nerds, sharing your unique approach to creative entrepreneurship. You're the founder of Gamify Business, where you've developed a revolutionary business education system that translates traditional business concepts into RPG game mechanics, specifically designed for creative thinkers. Creative business strategist, you're pioneering a methodology that transforms financial management, client acquisition, and pricing strategies into intuitive frameworks that resonate with artistic minds. And you're a community builder, establishing educational programs, including handbooks, workbooks, master classes, and coaching to help creative professionals build sustainable businesses without sacrificing their artistic integrity. That is a huge thing for creatives is the business side.
Correct. It is. Yes.
The business side of creativity is probably the Achilles heel of most, I would say.
97% of people who pursue a degree or education within an arts field or creative based field do not end up following that career path once they graduate.
97. Holy, that is staggering.
And the reason is because, much like myself, I went through school. I got a master's degree. I got a terminal degree in what I study.
Uh,
And what I was taught was how to be a great designer. I wasn't taught anything about what to do with that information once I graduated. And that's where everyone's stuck. And
yeah,
so, yeah,
yeah. So this is a huge component that I absolutely want to be able to spend some time on. But let's figure out how you got to this place. So we're going to go all the way back in time and start off with my only structured question, which
yeah.
is where were you born and what was life like as a kid for Paul?
I just turned 50 not even a month ago. We're going to jump into the Wayback Machine back to the 70s,
Yeah.
1970s. And I was born and raised in Omaha, Nebraska. And I find myself back there again, but I lived in many other places in between there. But
Okay.
as a kid, I grew up as a Gen Xer kid. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad was a traveling salesman. And so
Hmm.
she was home all the time and she had three boys and we had a neighborhood full of kids. So it was sun's up, get out. We'll see you when the street lights come on type of situation. And it
Yeah.
was very much a fend for yourself type of upbringing, which was great. My mom always used to tell us, she goes, you can be anything in life that you want to be. That's what she'd always tell us. She never told us you had to pick. So we've kind of had this just do whatever really struck our fancy type of attitude. When I was a kid, we would literally spend like I wore because it was the 80s. We wore jean jackets. We
Yeah.
did everything was jeans, blue jeans, and t-shirts, and we would fill our pockets full of hot cocoa mix and whatever candy we could shove in there, and we'd go travel the creek and just see how far we could. We'd go 6, 10 miles down this creek,
Okay.
and that'd be our entire day. And it was me and a bunch of kids. It was like living out Stand By Me every
Yeah.
single day. That's what growing up was. But what was really nice is because we were in a starter neighborhood, we did not grow up with much money, but we were in a starter neighborhood and they're constantly building new houses. And me and a bunch of other kids in the neighborhood, we would always go dumpster diving and just pull out any scraps that we could find. And we would build the most elaborate whatever we could think of between booby traps or skateboards that you'd sit on and run down the street on to, we build, oh, we're going to do an outdoor sleep out. Everybody's got to build your own bed. So we'd be building our beds out of scrap wood and whatever. And it was really just a whatever you could get your hands on and imagination run wild. I remember when cable TV came out. That was huge because it used to be three channels before then. And I know
Right.
the meme is out there about, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your kids are? But it was the truth when we were growing up. It's 10 p.m. You've got kids. Do you remember this? Go
So I do.
find them,
Yep.
And so, but we had trained all of us to be able to hear whose mom was yelling from the porch because it was time to come home because we had no cell phones. We had no, as a kid, when you left the house, you were free.
Yeah.
Like you could disappear, you could literally disappear and nobody
Yep.
would know where you went. You're just like, well, he went out like he was supposed to and streetlights came on, didn't come home. But
Yep.
I remember when like cable came out and we would learn that was like the hot new thing, but we never grew up with it. So it wasn't anything that was like we have to go do that. And now it's like infinite choices and stuff. It's
Right.
so overwhelming for kids. But no, my went to I love school. As a kid, I went to self-imposed year-round school until the 10th grade.
Wow.
Um, I didn't know this until I was in my 30s and I had my own kid, but my mom enrolled me in summer school because I was so sad. Like she tells me this, let's tell this story about it. In first grade, last day of school, I came home, I was bawling. I cried for 3 days because I missed school so much. She just enrolled me in summer school, and I just did summer
Wow.
school every year. And
Okay.
what I didn't realize until I was in my 30s with this summer school that I was being enrolled in was not like a gifted program. We didn't have the money for that. This was a school for kids who were failing and were being held back. So I'd show
Um,
up to summer school with a backpack ready to learn, and I'm in this, yes, teacher, give me more homework. And all these kids are failing out of school, and they're like, we don't want to be here. We'd rather. So I was a bit of a nerd, and I loved it though. And I continued doing that, and I'm a lifelong learner. So I did year-round school, like I said, until I was about 10th grade. And then I got into theater. That's my big launching point in middle school, kind of is where I discovered theater, but I didn't really like jump into it until I was in high school. And
okay.
from there, just kind of took off. So, you know,
What type of sales did your dad do?
he worked for Pearl Vision, which is
Okay.
an optical store. So he was a regional manager, but he was regional, so all of Midwest. So he worked like 8 different states. And so he's
Gotcha.
constantly on the road just managing whatever store. And eventually, when we got into high school, he ended up franchising out. And so we ended up buying a bunch of the stores, and so he could stay local. But yeah, until I was in high school, he was on the road.
Nice. Interesting. How about grandparents? Were your grandparents
So
regularly in the picture for you?
on my dad's side, they lived about 250 miles away, so we'd see them quarterly.
Yeah.
That was fine. My mom's side, different story. When she was born, her dad was 77, her mom was 58. So I
Oh,
never
wow.
knew. My grandpa was born in 1876.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so we never really knew them because they all passed away long before we
Right.
were born.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'd see my grandparents on my mom's side or on my dad's side often. Yeah.
Okay. And was there any form of creativity in that link
Oh
there?
yeah, that's the key right there. So
Okay.
my grandmother owned the Old Brown House Doll Museum, which was the second largest doll museum in the United States, and she ran it out of her
Wow.
home in Gothenburg. And she had thousands of dolls, and my grandfather was the one who built everything. And so they did something called apple head dolls where he would carve an apple and then
Yeah.
you do this
Yeah.
treatment and it shrinks them up and he would
Yep.
build entire dioramas out of it. He had a little workshop and his name is also Paul Pape.
Okay.
And so I was always Paul the second. Actually, I was the third, but whatever. But that was always the
Yeah.
other Paul. But he was a lefty like I was, and he's super into building stuff. And so I've got his picture in my workshop where he's hovering over some watches. He used to be a jeweler, but he would build all of these things, and he would build the sets for my grandma, who also ran the local playhouse. And so a lot of the creativity that you see from here
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
comes from them, and it comes from my mom, who was also
Right.
big into the arts.
Makes sense. Makes sense. With your siblings, where do you fall in the lineup?
I am the middle kid. I am the
Okay.
traditional, very stereotypical middle child. The
Yeah.
black sheep kid, only one who graduated high school, only one who got a terminal degree or like got any college education.
Really?
Yep, I was very much I liked the school. They hated school. They both ended up getting their GEDs and doing their own thing, but no, I'm the only one who's kind of achieved that, and it's as interesting as it is, it's caused some turmoil in the life because the education broadens your horizons,
Yeah.
and people who aren't educated resent that, I think, to a degree, and it makes for awkward family situations.
For sure. Well, yeah. Yeah, I get it. And I've seen that across my family as well in terms of cousins and different things like that, not having, a whole lot of opportunities. But both sides of my family is from East Tennessee.
Okay.
So we're the only ones really that were up here in Michigan when I was growing up. I had an aunt that was here, and then an uncle that was here sporadically. He'd be in and out of the state. But we'd, do that quarterly or vacation times, holidays down to
Yep.
Tennessee. That trip, a little bit farther for us, it was 500 miles. So
Yeah.
it was a day trip to get there. But yeah, I mean, I saw that my dad's side of the family, it was one of 11.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
my mom was one of four. So I have quite a bit of extended family, and I saw that scenario of some went to college, some didn't,
Yeah.
some went to school, some didn't. Even my dad never went to high school
Oh,
uh,
wow. Okay.
because at that time, being one of 11, he just had to quit school and have to help work, do whatever was necessary for the family.
Yeah.
So,
I get that.
but also too, he did go on and never got a GED, but he did take college courses in mechanics,
Oh,
just to continue pursuing that career. He's a
sure.
mechanic up until I was
Nice.
15, and then ended up going to work for Napa Auto Parts, which is kind of an easy transition.
Yeah.
Being in elementary school, do you remember any teachers at that point in time that recognized your thirst and hunger for information and knowledge and kind of wanted to nurture that?
I was a quirky kid, and so I think it was every teacher recognized it to a degree, but the one that really stood out to me was actually the librarian. I'm not an athletic kid. I never was, and so in elementary school, I would the library would be dark because nobody's supposed to be in there, but they'd always leave one door unlocked, and I'd find my way in there, and I'd cuddle up next to a window with a book, and I was a voracious reader. And so instead of going out on the playground and playing kickball with people I didn't care much about, I actually went and found myself locked in a library, just absorbing as much information as I could. And so the librarian I knew I was there, and
Okay.
she just never kind of turned me away because why kill that in a kid? You want to keep that thirst for knowledge going. And so they were good. I don't, I remember a lot of my teachers. Mrs. Rogers, my second grade teacher, she was great. They kind of nurtured us in there. But the one that always sticks out to me is my sixth grade teacher. His name was Mr. Benzel. And it sticks out because he was very much a military man. And what I got from that was that I am not a linear thinker. I call it a cloud thinker. I'm kind of everywhere because that's the creative mind. And
Yeah.
he was ex Air Force
Okay.
turned elementary school. And you do the things by the book, you follow the rules, you do this. And I just remember in one class, we were making a planetary, we're just doing the solar system on a piece of
Yeah.
cardboard, and we had to use compasses to cut out all the circles. And I freehanded it because, I'm a crafty kid. And I remember he just picked it up, tore that thing to pieces, and then made me go stand out in the hall for not following directions. And it was like the
Oh,
first time. And as a kid who loves school, who's a straight A kid, the honors kid, that
wow.
broke me. And I remember sitting in the hallway just in tears. And he came out and he's like, I don't understand why you're so upset. And I'm like, I didn't do anything wrong. I just didn't do it exactly how you told us to do it. And he's like, no, the work wasn't bad, but you're supposed to follow the rules. And I think that was a turning point in my life where I recognized that while rules are in place in a lot of places, it's typically the result that they're after. The process can be altered, but we get stuck in this mindset of the way it has to be done because it's the way it's always been done. And I
Yes.
think as a kid, and in that moment, I'm like, no, no, it can be done more than one way. And it's okay to push that boundary because and what I've come to find out as an adult is that those rules were set in place by somebody because it worked well for them in their particular situation. And other people saw it and said, oh, that's a good way that you're doing that. Let's try and reproduce it. And so they instill this as a rule set. But what happens is every person who steps into that changes it. They just change it without telling anybody, and they have to keep it as their dirty little secret. And if we just said, this is the result I need, this is the amount of money that I want to be able to put into it, how you get there, I don't care. Just as long as the
Right.
result is good, we would be so much more innovative as people. But we don't. We get stuck, we get hung up on this thing that somebody created years ago for one thing that worked well for that. And we don't think about how we as humans are all different and we all have different ways of approaching things.
Yeah. I was just thinking about this the other day in terms of the innovation trajectory of the United States specifically over the years. And I was remembering back to being a kid and watching the Jetsons, and I was like, the person I was talking to, I said, "Do you realize that the Jetsons were more advanced as a cartoon than we have been in the last 25 years as a society?"
You know, that show takes place in 2006.
Really? I didn't
Yeah.
even remember that. That's wild. That's wild. Holy cow. That's, oh man. Yeah. We've got a ways to go
But the
before
thing
we,
is I think speaking of that is it's on that point is that we get in our own way.
yeah.
It's because we are so rigid, and it's not everybody. You know, humans as a species are not rigid at all. I mean, the whole thing is we're adaptable. That's the great thing. That's what makes us great.
Yeah.
But those in charge to be able to control reigns, to control the people beneath them, have to adhere to a strict set of rules. And trying to change those rules, whether it would benefit them or not, is very hard. And so the reason that we've stagnated, like honestly, if you watch the trajectory of flight to landing on the moon, that time period from when
Yeah.
the plane went up to we landed on the moon, we've had that exact same amount of time since then, and
Hmm.
we've done less, done less innovation. Isn't that
Yeah.
crazy? Like
It's
we
wild.
couldn't, like a week, no, 3 days before the Wright brothers took the air, somebody wrote a big article in the newspaper that said that it will take man another 1,000 years to be able to fly. 3 days later, the Wright brothers took off in a plane.
Yeah.
50 years later, we're standing on the moon.
Right.
And now here we are 50 years later, and it's like, what have we done? You know?
Exactly. Exactly. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
It's very bizarre. The creative, innovative elements of uh, Da Vinci, Michelangelo, people like that, it's not been nurtured a whole lot further along.
The interesting thing about that is that's a United States thing.
Yeah.
The United States does not nurture creativity. Other countries do.
Yeah.
Like the reason Leonardo da Vinci or Michelangelo were able to do that is because they were sustained by the state. The government paid them to think and be creative.
Yeah.
And yet here we are with the starving artist motif. That's our big thing, you know. Oh, you're an artist, you got to be a starving artist. I'm like, no, I fight against the starving artist. I had another podcast this morning, and that was like, we can't quit saying that I want to be poor. I don't want to be poor. I don't think anybody wants to be poor. What a weird thing, what a statement to make. It's like, no, nobody wants, because I am passionate about something doesn't mean I shouldn't be paid for it. So let's get that out of the way. And I
Right.
think we should be state subsidized because if you think about it, I mean, if just on a normal day, you go about your, I don't know if you have a normal 9 to 5, but let's say you have a normal 9 to 5, you go there and you come home and you need to relax, you need to unwind. What are you going to do? You're going to listen to music on the way home in your nice car. You're going to get home, you're going to cook a nice meal, or you're going to go out to a restaurant. You're going to turn on TV, or you're going to go to a movie. Every single one of those things is made by a creative.
Yeah.
Like creatives are the soul of humanity.
Yeah.
And yet we're like, but you shouldn't be paid for that.
Right.
We're going to take advantage of all of it, but don't, no pay, you know?
Exactly.
It's such a weird dichotomy right there.
It is. It is definitely. One of the things that I'm finding interesting about your story already, you started off talking about how, as a kid, you and your friends were out traveling the creek as far as you could get in that daytime, and then back building things and all of that different stuff. And it seemed as if it was pretty easy for you to incorporate into a group of people. But then there's the other side of it, of where you're sneaking into the library and just curling up next to the window with a book. Was there a bit of escapism within that book finding?
Yeah. I will be the first to admit that as a kid, I was not I was often accused of being book smart, not street smart. I didn't have as many friends as I thought. I would travel with a group because you're part of the
Right.
group. A great analogy to this is I have an older brother who's 2 years older than me, and I have a younger brother 2 years younger. But my older brother, he was always the leader of the groups, and I always
Okay.
wanted to participate because I wanted to be part of the group, part of the gang.
Yeah.
And I remember one time they were all riding their BMX bikes and they were jumping ramps. And I said, I want to participate. And they're like, the only way that you can participate is if you lay here and put a board over you and we can use you as the ramp.
Oh, jeez.
And so I was the ramp for an entire day. I mean, that's my level of participation. So, but as far as like escapism goes, always I didn't fit in well with my family. I was very much a black sheep. I People will tell you now I'm probably a little autistic if you had to put a
Okay.
label on something, but it's to me it's just no, I've just got a really curious mind and I kind of get hyper fixated on things. So, that's why they think
Right.
that.
Yeah.
But my rest of my family is not that way. And so I don't know if you're familiar with the show Young Sheldon, but
Yes.
okay, so my wife says you were definitely young Sheldon in your
Really?
family of kids who were not. And so,
Okay.
so I got picked on a lot, but I found that escape in books was perfect for me. I Any opportunity, for years I mean I used to sit on the hood of my dad's car staring it into the glass in the garage door thinking I had elf ears because there had to be some reason why I'm different than everyone else around me.
Mm.
Constant nightmares of being in a family of alien lizard people, but I was a weird human that was stuck here. So, I mean, I definitely had that sensation of being an outsider as a kid. And so,
Okay.
finding books, finding escape in that regard was definitely a huge part of who I am. And I've got three boys now. I think we've read about 360 books to them, novels, not just storybooks, but over 360 novels I've read to my kids. And I've got a kid who's 18. I got a kid right now who's 11. So, I mean, it's been going on for 18 years. But
Yeah.
that's just because I want them to have the same experience where no matter how bad the day is, you can always escape into a good book.
That's a great thought process to have with your children. I don't have children, but I'm an uncle. I've got four nephews, so I understand that perspective of being the uncle. I like to think I'm the cool one of the family. I hope that's the case. I've got tattoos,
Yeah,
sleeve
there you go.
sleeve tattoos and stuff, and I remember one of my nephews. I would say he's probably about 2 or 3 years old. He had some markers and was sitting at the kitchen table, and he was just scribbling all up and down his arm. He's like, "Look, I'm like Uncle Rich," and I was like, "Holy cow, that's cool. Let me grab a camera,
Yep.
capture this picture."
I have a sleeve started as well. My kids have
You-
done this, and so does my wife, and my kids have done the same thing. My middle kid, who's 14, he comes back and his arm is always sharpied up. And I'm like, when you turn 18, kid, I'm sure that thing's gonna be real. You just so yeah, I get
That's
it.
cool. That's cool. The dreams about being an alien or
Around aliens, yeah, yeah.
around aliens, was that, you said it, a continuous nightmare. Was that a recurring thing that you had
Oh,
happening?
for about 15 years, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, and even sometimes when I'm like really stressed, I'll still have them occasionally as an adult. I'm back in the same house, same street, and it's funny because I'll come home. I have a really good close relationship with my mom,
Okay.
and she's still around. My dad is very much like my brothers. They're very much don't understand who I am or anything like that. It's fine.
I
Um,
get it. Same
but I
here.
would, yeah. But I would walk into the house. The dream's always saying, walk into the house, and then they're all sitting in the living room. It was a split level, so as you're coming up, you can see the living room, and they're all sitting there, but it's all alien lizard faces. And I'd run away, and I'd be running down the street trying to like jump and fly away, but no matter how fast I went, it was never fast enough. Like I could not escape that
Yes.
house. I have not lived. My parents don't even live in that house. I haven't lived in that house in 35 years, yet the nightmares are still the same. Same exact split level house in the middle of nowhere, Nebraska.
That's
But
wild.
but honestly, it's turned out to be great because I wrote a fiction book, a
Okay.
horror book based on the neighborhood that I grew up in. Very Stand By Me meets the Twilight Zone, and a
Right.
lot of the adventures and stuff that came from my head from that time have turned into this horror novel. It's at an editor right now, trying to get that thing
Okay.
published. But yeah, I mean, got to take advantage of those things when you can.
For sure. It's cool that you were able to spin it at this point in life. With those dreams and thoughts and feeling of not fitting in, what is your perspective on other life forms potentially outside of the human race?
Oh, hell yeah, man. Bring them on. Like,
Okay.
I think absolutely. I'm a nerdy dude. I might like my art, but I like my science as well. I'm a weird kid like that. But if we just look
Okay.
at statistics, just
Yes.
statistically,
Yeah.
every light in the sky that we see maybe a tenth of what's actually out there. And every one of those is a galaxy filled with billions of stars, filled with billions upon billions of planets. How egotistical are we
Right.
to think that we're the only ones out? Nah, come on now.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
no, absolutely, absolutely. Are they here? Who knows? I don't think so because I think that, like, if we look at the distances, unless they've got something else going on that we don't know about, I think it's impossible to get to there. I think a lot of what we see here on this planet is either dimensional or this is my fun.
Yeah, yeah.
I love
I'm with
extra
you. Go ahead.
dimensional on this stuff, or I
Yeah.
think that it's us from the future coming back to try and fix things.
Right, right.
My best, I don't know how you feel about the timeline that we're in right now, but the
It's
best
wild.
analogy that I'm in is like somebody decided to try and go back in time and stop murder wasps. I don't remember if you remember those before the
Yes, yes,
pandemic, and every
yes.
time they go to fix it, it fucks things up even more. So like here we are now, we're like, please stop going back. This
Right.
timeline is bad enough.
Leave those wasps alone.
Exactly. They're fine. They go away.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. That's an interesting perspective because I have the same thought process in terms of that. And I was listening to a podcast too the other day, and the person almost said literally verbatim of what just came out of your mouth. The thought of us thinking we're the only ones in this vast universe
Yeah.
is ridiculous, and
Yeah.
it's very audacious of us to think that way
Yeah.
because there's too much that we don't know.
And we're learning it every day. Every
Right.
day we're learning, like, I mean, they just discovered something that shook the foundations of physics, like corrected one of Einstein's main theories. Like we saw it finally in practice and we're like, that should not work because everything that we know, and we know a lot, should not allow that to happen. And yet we're watching it happen. So we're like, we do not know enough. I mean, and any good scientist will tell you, you only know what you know and you don't know what you don't know. And so it's a constant like struggle to learn more. But then you have to be willing to accept that failure of knowledge. You have to understand that it's okay to be wrong as long as you can note it and move forward with the new information. It's when we plant a flag on misinformation and we stand tall with that, it's like, nope, it halts progress. It
Yeah.
100% does.
Yeah, for sure. As you're moving towards junior high, which I believe you said that's when you kind of found theater,
Mhm.
uh, how did that come into your range of view at that point in time?
I was a tall kid. I'm not tall now. I'm only 5'11", but I was a tall kid when I was growing up. I grew up 6 inches when I was 6 years old,
Oh,
one
wow.
summer, and I surpassed my older brother. And so
Yeah.
I always been confused as the oldest. But when I got into middle school, also I have no fear of talking in front of people, none. And so I can get on stage and just talk and have not a no panic or anything. And so what happened was because I was the tall kid, I had my voice is already starting to change, so it dropped down, and I had no fear. They're like, we're going to put that dude on stage. We're just going to put him out there. And
Okay.
again, because I love school. I'd get to school early. I'd stay late. I'd do the summer school thing. All of that, the teachers loved me because I was the ideal student. So anything that they could do to help me, be more of whatever, do whatever I want. I'd jump at every opportunity. We had gifted classes. I don't know how old
Yeah.
you are. So, I mean, I assume you're about same age as me. So
Yeah, around your
okay.
age. Yeah.
So I figure, we're growing up the same way. We had gifted classes where they literally pull you out of your classroom, put you in a different class to teach you gifted stuff. And I always did that. And then they also had like the non-gifted kids, but now they just kind of integrate everybody together. They don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But
Right.
I remember that even in the gifted courses, they're like, what more can we do? What more can we do? And so I was, like I said, voracious on the reading and trying to get any kind of opportunity to be more, learn more, get more. And so they just took advantage of that, and I was there for it.
Right on. Yeah, I was similarly tall. I grew 7 inches in one summer.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, and also too because of that, I ended up having to have knee surgery because I wound up with Osgood Slaughter's disease, where the bone was starting to deteriorate because it
Oh,
was
wow.
stretching so much.
Mm.
That was the worst pain I've ever experienced in
And you had
life.
that as a kid? That was,
Yeah, 14.
oof. Wow. I can't even
That-
imagine.
yeah, it was not fun whatsoever. And yeah, same thing. Everybody thought I was older all the time. I was around older kids anyways, so it was, just you just got lumped into it. That you were
Yep.
older without without in regard to your real age. A lot of times, once you got into doing the theater stuff, did that feel like you found a place where you could fit in?
I think the opposite. I think I found it as the escape button. It was
Okay,
I could go be somebody else, and then
got you.
I didn't have to worry about being me.
Right.
And because I'm an awkward kid, and so like having deep friendships was aloof to me. Like I didn't get that, and so I could be in this world and I could become this character. And I had read so much that I knew, backstories and all that stuff. I could really tap into this, and
Yeah.
so I could become this character, and it was a shield. It was a
Okay.
shield from vulnerability, which was great. And so that got me through middle school and all of high school. And the thing is like people ask me about like how I became Santa for nerds, and it's honestly because I started as an actor, but I'm horrible at it. I'm not good at memorization. And so on stage with
Okay.
other people, I'm not the actor you want to be with. I've done 3 one-man shows and they're an hour and a half long and they're great because I don't have to work off of anybody else and I can interact with the audience and stuff. So I have no
Yeah.
problem being on stage, but when it comes to actually doing the lines, performing the lines, I'm horrible at it. And so that was they kept casting me because of the deep voice and the height and
Yeah.
the no fear, but then they would realize over and over again, this guy just doesn't memorize any of the script. And so it's not great. But I loved that escapism. That was wonderful. And so
Right.
I really leaned into that as a kid.
Okay. I'm finding this very interesting because I don't like just this interaction between you and I, and it's being recorded. It's not live or anything like that. But I think if we were in the same area, that I would find you very easily to be a friend with.
Yeah.
And it's interesting as you're telling your story, the outsider identity component that seems to be there, but yet there's these ways that you're navigating it and you're able to fit in at components. But the reality is that you feel completely out of place.
Yeah, it doesn't go away either. I'm literally like, even now at 50, I have friend groups that they're not friends. Like these are people
Okay.
that are in your life and okay, well, I mean, this is so egotistical, and I hate talking about it, but I'll let you in on a little thing, and it's that I'm talented, okay, and whatever. I don't like to say that out loud because you don't want to be the person who says that he's the smartest person in the room. You don't want to be that person. But I have talent and skills,
Yes.
and I also, if I want something, I just do it. And so I'm pig-headed in
Driven.
that regard. And so I just
Yeah.
want to like, if I want to do this, I'm going to do it. And people see that and they're like, wow, that's cool. They want to be around that because that energy is contagious. And
Right.
so what I found was that they love to be around me because of that aspect of it. But then when that is done, there's either they fall into two camps. They're either like, that was fun, that was a fun ride, thank you. Now we're gonna go hang out with our actual friends, or they get jealous. And the jealousy
Ah,
one has been really difficult for me to deal with because a lot of the people that I would surround myself with growing up, even all the way through college and adulthood, it was the comparison thing. It's like, well, why aren't I as successful as Paul? I'm doing the same thing. And it's like, comparison's the thief of joy, kids. Don't
right.
compare yourself. I
Say that
don't,
again for the people in the back.
that's right. Comparison is the thief of joy. 100%.
There you go.
So what I like to tell people is quit comparing yourself to anyone else. Think of yourself on a ruler. Okay? You're going to be it's a 1 foot long ruler. You're at 6 inches. You're always in your life going to be right in the middle.
Yeah.
In your journey of life, you're looking to that 12 and you're always seeing the people in front of you who are doing so much better. And you're like, I want to be like that person. I wish I was that. I want to get to there. I want to do this. But you're never going to move past 6 because that's where you're at. What we never do is turn around and look at all the people who are like, I want to be like you.
Mm,
And the fact is everybody's there.
Yeah.
Everybody has somebody that they want to be like, and there's somebody who wants to be like you. And you don't understand how important you are until that goes away. And
Yeah.
so don't compare yourself to other people. Understand your place. And that's not
Yeah.
a derogatory term, but
For sure.
understand where you're at. And so that isn't there anymore. Don't compare yourself. I always say mow your own path. I love that. Mow your own path. You can be
Yeah.
next to the highway where everybody's doing their own, everybody's doing the exact same thing. But
Yeah.
get off, see where it's going, and find your own way. Much like walking through those creeks for hours on end,
Yeah.
that exploration is going to be so much more rewarding than jumping on the interstate. So
Yeah.
do that in life.
That was powerful, Paul. That was very powerful.
Thank
And
you.
I think I want to highlight that for the audience because the creative community needs more of that, I feel.
Yeah.
Um, there's so many times we get caught up in the comparison scenario of what we're doing compared to everybody else, and it stunts our opportunities,
Yeah.
stunts our creative growth. Sometimes it just completely shuts it down to the point where you never try to experience it or express it, and it's huge. That bit of information you just spewed out of your mouth was powerful, very much so. Being in theater and them realizing, well, crap, Paul can't memorize these lines, but we want him here every time because he takes up a spot on the roster for the whatever it is. Um,
Hmm.
how did you manage to navigate through that to the point of maybe getting to a place of realization where they put you in that comfort zone of you being to just not have to memorize everything, but you could kind of maybe freestyle a little bit on your own?
They did exactly that in
Okay.
my senior year of high school. We wrote a play based on Shakespeare's Twelfth Night, and they're like, Paul, you're going to be the narrator. All you have to do is introduce people and introduce the scenes. You write your own lines. I'm like, okay, I can do this. And they did. They just worked around the limitation because again, I could hold the stage. I had no problem doing that aspect of it. And I was decent at writing as well. So it's yeah, but they recognized that issue. But I will say, because I when I got out of high school, I was like, theater is that's my life. That's all I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do theater for the rest of my life. And so I went into
Uh-huh.
college and I declared my major the first day. I'm a theater major. And the end of my first year, the head of acting said, you'll never act in this school because you're not good. Find something else. And so it was either change your major or find something else. I'm stubborn, but I had a great mentor, and he saw my work ethic. He saw that I was a voracious learner, and so he's like, "How would you like to learn every aspect of theater? Every
Okay.
aspect, from janitor to box office to directing to design, every bit of it." And I was like, heck yeah, man, let's do it. And that was so eye-opening because as a kid, theater is acting because you don't understand the backstory of it, the
Yeah.
background stuff. And to be shown this, to have that curtain lifted in a very technical and matter-of-fact way was so interesting to me because it was like a puzzle where someone finally got the border done. And you're like, now I know what I'm making. So let's
Yes.
put the pieces together. And I fell into design, and design covered every aspect that acting did as far as because I didn't have to become a different person. I got to create the world. And
Yes.
so I was creating the worlds and the props and all of this. And I was good at it. I mean, I won national and international awards based on the work that I did. And so
Wow.
because my head can just go anywhere, and I loved it, and I had a lot of research background from all the books that I'd read. And so
Yeah.
that was really what like transformed everything from me, from going from a kid who wanted to become something else to being somebody who could create literal worlds.
That's amazing. Where did you go off to college?
So I went to undergrad at the University of Nebraska, Omaha, and
Okay.
then I did my graduate out at the University of California, San Diego.
Gotcha. And the mentor was at the school in Nebraska.
Yeah, yeah.
Got. And did you find him, or did he come into play in your first year, or was it second or third
I mean, he was the dean of the department, and so he was kind of
Okay.
always around. And as a work study, I would work in the scene shop, which is where we build all the sets, even as a freshman, because you just had to do your hours there. And I picked the one day that no one else picked. So I was the only kid in the lab for 4 hours. And so he'd have to supervise. And so we just get the chatting and whatever. And we just, like, honestly, I don't look at teachers, I don't look at anybody. I've met a million celebrities, I've met whatever, rich people, poor people, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
There's no one who's up here, there's no one who's down here. We're all on the same level. And I
Right.
talk to people. Best advice I ever got was from a friend who worked in Hollywood. He says, actors are just people who are doing a job. If you treat them like people, then you will be a person as well.
Yes.
Don't elevate them. And so I do that in my life. It's like I don't get starstruck or anything like that. And so I talk to my teachers as though they're my peers because I'm a smart kid, and so I could talk on the same, we could have a interesting conversation. And so when I was talking with him, his name is Bob, we hit it off, and we would talk about all sorts of aspects of theater and design. And then he was a designer at the same time, and so I'd ask him about how he got to where, how he figured out where this design came from, just always trying to learn more. And I would just follow him around like a lost puppy, just like, ooh, what are we doing here? What's this over this? And what's this do? And I just think as a professor who'd been teaching kids for 30 years, to see somebody who's just so eager to
Yeah.
want to know more, not just I just need a grade to pass so that I can get on with my life, but a person who's like, I'm going to absorb all of it. I think that was just eye-opening for him as a professor. And so he's like, let's just do this. Let's just take this kid and see what all he can do. And that's
Right.
where I'm at.
That's amazing to get that perspective at that level as well, in terms of celebrity and that kind of thing. I similarly had an experience earlier in life. I had a cousin that played pro ball, played for California Angels. His name is Clyde Wright. Played for California Angels, Milwaukee Brewers, and one other team that's slipping me right now. Pitched a no hitter one game, so
Nice.
he's on that list. But as a kid, being in Detroit, every time he'd come to town, he'd have tickets waiting for my dad and us to be able to go to the games. And a lot of
Nice.
times at that point in the 70s, games were during the day.
Hmm.
So we get tickets, dad would take off work, we go down, and we wouldn't be sitting in the Detroit side of the stadium. We'd be sitting in his side of the stadium. So a lot of times we were in the box seats
Oh,
by
nice.
ourselves because there was no fans during the day going to the game. So
Sure.
we'd be there out, and I was just like, I always wondered. I was like, why are we in? Why is there nobody else around us? Like, and he'd come off the field, he'd stop and talk before he'd go down into the dugout, that kind of stuff. But I always looked at it as like, oh, he's just doing something cool. He's not this huge big
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So I've never had that starstruck scenario with any of the people that I've ever worked with over the years. It's just always been like, yeah, they got to go in and do something cool, and they're getting paid
Yeah.
more for it. That's all there is to
Yeah.
it, really.
Yeah.
Because when they're not on stage or they're not in front of the camera or any, they're just regular people.
Yep.
They're doing everything like anybody else is trying to do.
The best
Um,
experience I had was in a room full of like 15 A and B list celebrities, but we were in the green room before the show started. And we are just all just shooting the shit. I mean, we're just having it. We're making each other laugh. We're doing all that. And it was very casual. It was very much like this conversation, very casual. And then I worked the merch. I created all the merchandise for the show. And so I would go out there, and as soon as they saw audience, this shield went up and they became the character of themselves. And it was more
yes,
robotic. And I was like, how unfortunate that all of these people think that's who you are, but the reality is you're so much cooler when
right.
when you're able to take off that facade. But they have to put it up there because dealing just even in the merchandise side of things, I saw people there that just were looking for any in to be with a celebrity, and it was such a
Mhm.
weird thing. It's like if you liked yourself a little bit more, you wouldn't worry about this. It's a weird situation to be in.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So as you're getting mentored and you're learning more and more about theater, the processes, the building, the sets, the monetary components of it, how that works, I would imagine you'd at some point got into budgets how
Mhm.
much was available to utilize and make this thing happen. How did that allow you to start maybe losing some of that I'm the complete outsider with all these people around me, even at this college level? Was there any component where you some of that started to slide off of you?
I believed it did. I was
Okay.
proven wrong, but I believed it did. I worked with a group of, so when my undergrad didn't have sororities or fraternities. It's not how the school's laid out. And we had a student organization before I got there, but the student organization was formed because they hated the faculty. And I'm like, well, that's not a good way to do this. So it had been disbanded before I had shown up, but I started, I'm like, let's get a student organization. So I created a student organization at my school that ran for 15 years. And you had to have a board. So I grabbed three of the other, go-getters in the department, and we were thick as thieves, the four of us, for the entire time that we were in undergrad.
Yeah.
And we did everything together. And a lot of it was spearheaded because I wanted to do it. And that's just the nature of who I am.
Yeah.
And yeah, the last year we did an award ceremony every year to kind of thank everybody for, kind of like the Oscars, but for college
Right.
theater. And I remember the last year I get up there and one of the people in the group, they're like, I would like to give awards to the people that have meant so much to me over the last 4 years. And he brought up the other three, but not me. And I was
Wow.
like, I got shafted. I was like, wow, it was eye opening. I mean, we were together almost every day. And yet they were the group and I was the one either they were following or they were hanging out with because I was doing cool shit
Right.
or whatever. But yeah, in the end, it was like, no, you're adjacent. So that led to the loneliness. And I'll admit, when I got into college, like my family life was rough.
Okay.
Okay. My older brother didn't care much for me, tried to end that situation a lot. And
Okay.
so my mom actually moved me out when I was 19. I was almost hospitalized because he tried to kill me for the last time. And so I was like, okay, I'm done.
Whoa.
And so my mom moved me out and I lived in an apartment. And she told me, you're not allowed to have a roommate because you'll end up killing him, is what she told me. But I think it was just isolating me because I have a strong personality, whatever. I've been married
Sure.
for almost 26 years, so it's like I can have roommates, it's fine. But
Right.
um,
Right.
I spent a lot of undergrad and then again grad school living by myself. And so when
Okay.
everybody would get together and go hang out at the dorms or go out to the party house or whatever, I was always heading to my own place to be by myself.
Yeah.
Now, as a kid, as a 20 something, I didn't care because I was like, I love learning. I love doing my schoolwork. I was always that guy who was like coming up with the next new idea, that kind of thing. And so I didn't mind going back there because I was surrounded by things that made me happy.
Right.
But in retrospect, especially it's because now I have kids and I
Right.
see a similarity in there. I emphasize to them, I said, you need to find people. Being lonely at 50 sucks. You don't want to be that
Right.
person who's got, has to struggle to find and make friends. So, like, incorporate that more into your life. And so I think it wasn't until I was like my mid 30s, and I was married, I was happily married, but I think we both kind of realized that because she's a costume designer, is what she does.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, so that's how we met. Set design, she was costume design for the same show. But like, I think we both realized that we had led pretty lonely existences and
Wow.
either forced upon us or just kind of how our personalities are. And so, as much as I felt like I fit in with the group, the reality is I was just fooling myself.
Okay.
But it's okay. I recognize that now. And I think what it does is I have friend groups, and those are the people who want nothing from me. There's no comparison. There's nothing that that's Paul and they're my friends. And we just do what we need to do. And so I don't have hundreds or thousands of friends, but I've got enough that make me happy.
Interesting. How did your younger brother feel towards you? Did he have a
Mm.
similar
No.
mindset?
No, my younger brother and my older brother are thick as thieves.
Okay.
I was very much, he's the quieter one.
Sure.
The, I mean, much like any, I mean, uh, you have a lot more siblings than me, but the we've very much fell into that trap of the oldest is the fuck up kid where the parents don't know what they're doing, so they screw up a lot, so they're gonna nurture and baby that one forever because they feel guilty.
Yeah.
Then you have the middle kid, and then immediately after the middle kid, you have the third kid. Well, that's the baby. That's the last one. So we're gonna
Yes.
baby and nurture that one forever. That
Yep.
middle kid, just fend for yourself, kiddo. And that was very much the dichotomy. So my older brother and my younger brother always got more. My mom used to always tell me the squeaky wheel gets the most grease. And
Mm.
so they were definitely the squeaky component. and I wasn't. I never complained. I was like, okay, I'll just keep my head down and do what I do. But I was very self-sufficient.
Yeah.
And I always thought that was a benefit. And in the end, it is.
Right.
But in growing up, not so much. So my younger brother was very much coddled by my mom and my dad, and he still kind of to a degree is. And then my
Okay.
older brother is still the screw up. And so in his 50s, he's trying to still figure things out. And so
Right.
they both still get a lot of that parental treatment. Whereas, I moved away from the state and I was fine,
Yeah.
just self-sufficient.
That that went in a dark place real fast as you were describing that experience with your mom putting you into your own space.
Mhm.
And it was because your brother was literally trying to kill you because for
Correct.
whatever reason, he couldn't figure you out. He couldn't see you as the sibling that he was older. He needed to help take care of you, look after you as the older one. From a mental state, and we can stay here or go past it as fast
Yeah.
as you want, no issues. But if you're open to sharing it, from a mental perspective, that feeling of knowing this is my older brother, like we're supposed to love each other, but yet he wants to harm me. How did that affect you in terms of those years of experiencing that frustration of not getting along?
I think that started the summer I grew bigger than him. I think
Okay.
before then we were super tight. And then after that, there was animosity. And
Wow.
so, like I said, that was the last time, but there were 6 attempts.
Okay.
And so we never had that. We never had that siblings are there to take care of each other type of
Okay.
situation. It was never.
Gotcha.
Also, we grew up with, corporal punishment was a part of growing up. And
Yes.
so the belt, the pool cue, that kind of thing. And my brother got the brunt end of it because he was just, and still is, that guy. We're all headstrong in our own way, but he's
All right.
headstrong and cannot be wrong.
Yeah.
And that led to a lot of conflict. And no, it was really funny that event where my mom moved me out. My mom was actually in the hospital at the time. She was having, I can't remember exactly what it was. I think it was something with her knee or something like that. She was having some surgery done, so she wasn't even home. And my face was black and blue from the attempt. And I showed up to talk to my mom. And the very first thing she said to me was not, "Are you okay?" or "What happened?" It's, "What did you do to piss him off?"
Oh my gosh.
So it's like they know they're living with a wild animal,
Yes.
and yet if the wild animal attacks, it's everyone else's fault, and it's
Right.
still that
Right.
way. And
Yeah.
so obviously I don't have a huge tight relationship with my with my brother or anything like that.
Yeah.
um but what's funny is mentally, I mean, I view it, I'll go here because I don't
Okay.
care, but like 2 years ago, I got a business coach. I know so I was 48, almost 49 years old. And I
Uh,
got a business coach. And this business coach was all about talking about your deep, everything story wise comes from emotion. And so we needed to journal out like everything in our life that made us who we are.
right.
And I will be honest with you, 100% honest, no lie. I did not think about my past until that day. Like mentally,
Wow.
I had compartmentalized that shit so well. And I am an optimist. I have some bad things that's happened to me in my life, but I am
Yeah.
still an optimist. This is why I'm Santa. Like, I believe people are good until you prove me wrong. And so, and my wife loves this about me. She's like, you can get shit on a lot, Paul, but you still think people are good, decent people. And I'm like, because they are for the most part. Everyone has a bad day. There are shitty humans out there. Don't get me wrong, there are. But for the most part, everyone is, you don't know where they're at or what happened to have them be in that position. So mentally, I've been fine. These last 2 years have been the hardest emotionally for me. I've gone into therapy, I've done all of this stuff because this is all
Okay.
shit that I had packed away really well.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
it's come back. Now, what's interesting about it is it has made me closer to my wife and my kids. It has allowed me a perspective that I didn't realize. I have a tattoo on my arm. It's about this journey. It's about, because for the longest time, I just call myself a robot because I don't really get, like when my son was born, most people are like dads, are like excited, whatever. It was just another day. It was a Thursday. It was fine.
Right. Right.
I didn't, and I'll tell my kids this. I didn't love you until you were two. And it's not an it's not because I didn't care for, I cared for them, I nurtured them. I'm a stay-at-home dad. That's literally one of my, that's why my studio's in the basement. I take
Right.
care of my kids.
Yeah.
But that disconnect from my upbringing, as well as the compartmentalization of my emotions, like my kids did not, they were all about mom. And dad
Right.
was just there. Dad was taking care of me a lot, but they really latch on to mom because, mom's the caregiver and whatever.
Right.
And yeah, I never had that attachment. So emotionally, I was disconnected and kind of
I,
oblivious to it.
yeah.
So
Yeah. It makes complete sense to me. Totally understand it. And also to understand the therapy side of it, because I've been in therapy since 94 regularly,
good.
sometimes twice a week, sometimes, at least, at the very least, once a week. Have finally been able to get to once a month at this point, but I understand therapy extensively. I understand even at this point in life, there's things that still rise up to the top, which you're like, where did that come from?
Absolutely.
Like, I didn't even realize that was an issue. Like, what's happening here? So yeah, I can imagine it's been just a period of trying to reassess what had been locked away
Yeah.
and what had been put aside so that you didn't have to deal with that emotion, that feeling of neglect, that feeling of unwantedness from a sibling, as well as a degree of that from the parent, just because of the way that they responded as you described it. Man,
But
that's
what's interesting about that is the to be able to retrospectively like view it. Like I
mhm,
don't this all came up in the last 2 years, and I would actually try and I hate the word confront, but in therapy, you're asked to
sure.
confront these things.
Yeah, yeah.
To me, it's just a conversation. And as an intellectual, I'd like to get more information. Clarity is something I am every day. I look for clarity.
Yes.
And I would talk to my family about this, and they don't remember any of it. These things that were so pivotal in my life that changed my trajectory were
Yep.
such a non-issue blip in their life that they don't even
Yeah.
recall it. Like, how
Yeah.
weird is that? So you
For
can't be
sure.
angry at them because they don't remember. But I was carrying this burden, these boulders on my back for so long that that's just what I thought life was. But then to actually set it down and be like, they don't remember. The only one who's hanging on to this is you. Let it go. Walk away.
Right.
And so
Right.
I've been doing that as best I can, but also the older I get, the more I realize people are who they are.
Yeah.
And like I cannot change that. And so the only person I can change is me. And so either
Correct.
I have to accept them or I have to let them go.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, it's a huge part of the journey. And I think that recognizing that, understanding it, and then it allows you to keep yourself safe in those
Yeah.
situations. I can't get rid of my family. My mom is the best grandma you can ever imagine. My brother, the shitty brother, we actually refer to him as shitty brother great uncle because he's a
Okay.
wonderful uncle. Like he takes my kids to concerts. He like does everything that you would want him to do as a brother, but he does it
Okay.
as an uncle, which is really interesting. But we have
Yeah.
no relationship. We don't even speak. But he like hangs out with my kids all the time because they're with my mom, on the weekends, on like long weekends or whatever, and they get to have a great time. And it's like I have to, so I can't walk away from my family, but I
Right.
distance myself. We'll do the holidays, we'll do the occasional get together, and we are cordial, but there's nothing deeper than that because it's a safety measure
Yeah.
on everybody's end.
Yeah. For sure. For sure. Is there any concern for your kids when he's in that environment?
My wife and I have this conversation a lot. When they were really little, we had a little concern, but he proved himself to be fairly good at it. Now that he's older, we and our children are old enough to like we never talk to our kids like they're kids. We always talk to our kids
Right.
like they're humans. They're,
Yeah.
and so I am not one, I don't want to sugarcoat anything. Like we want to talk about finances, death in the family, whatever. I'm just the guy that does it. And
Right.
so when we talked to him, I said, enjoy your time with your uncle. He's a fun uncle because he's a kid who has never grown up. You can
Gotcha.
enjoy the time with them, but don't emulate to be that.
Right.
Understand the joy that comes with it, and then take those moments and enjoy that. Like he's going to a he's taking my middle kid to a concert to go see Guar. I'm not a big fan of Guar, but
Okay.
he is. So I'm like, okay, y'all go do Guar together. That's fine. I bought the
Right.
tickets because my brother doesn't have the money to do it. So I'm like, no, I'll pay for both of you to go. They'll go and they'll really enjoy that. But I'm like, understand that he's a 53-year-old man who doesn't have an apartment, doesn't have money to take you to a concert, doesn't have any of this stuff. He's cool and fun to be around because he wants to be a kid until he dies. But
Right.
that's not how we grow up. So
Yeah.
recognize that. And so all of our kids understand that and they know my history. I don't sugarcoat it. I'm like, I'll let them know. And I don't think it affects them in any way. It allows them to have the caution and understand
Yeah, for
where to
sure.
draw the line in that.
That's a fantastic perspective to have with your children because I think the more information that you're able to give them, kind of like you growing up, right? You wanted as much information about everything as you could get.
Hmm.
If you're able to do that with your kids, I think that allows them to navigate in this world that's as crazy as can be, as we've discussed earlier. Allows them to have a whole lot more information to navigate responsibly and or alertly
Hmm.
about what's happening and what's going on. I want to commend you for that because it's not common that I've seen, but I think it's so practical in terms of growth, understanding, experiences. I think a lot of times parents have a tendency to want to be hands off or too hands on. And either one of those, as we know, can go in an extreme direction. And it's not for the best all the times for kids, especially kids who have creative ways of thinking, creative veins of discovery within them. It can be damaging quick in terms of their life trajectory.
Oh, absolutely. I find that when they're compressed, is what I like to think of it as. And when you compress them by trying to fit them into something that they're not, they usually typically turn to alternatives to escape.
Yeah,
And unfortunately, my kids have lived through a few of our family members passing due to that. And
yeah,
so but we don't look at it as it's a sad thing. What we do is we look, it's a learning opportunity. We're like, these are the reasons that they're at this point. And, like we have their kid's uncle passed away from drug overdose. And we said the reason is because he wouldn't get therapy. He needed help. He refused to get help. And so,
yeah,
like, if you find yourself in a situation in which you can't deal with the demons inside, you go talk to somebody who's not a family member. You go to talk to somebody who can help you out with this. And we're happy to pay for that, to get you that help, to support you in that. And there's no judgment. It's just
right.
shit happens to people and you've got to deal with it and you got to deal with it in a positive way. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. With nearing the end of college, and you've got all this information behind you now because you've been nurtured at this point with the opportunity to be in a space probably most of the time by yourself and with the professor only because he's got to make sure that you're overseen at that point. What are your thoughts about graduation? Are you thinking this is definitely where I'm going to make my mark in society? And what is the thought about continuing that education after the fact?
So I knew right away I was getting a grad degree. I don't know, I was in my senior year and I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm definitely going to do a grad degree. And so I applied to one school and that was the school I wanted to go to. And I was like, either I'm going there or I'm not going anywhere. And they took one person a year and I got into that school.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he met me as in San Diego. I met the guy and I had the opportunity to go to other schools. I had been actually asked to go to some pretty prestigious schools. But the thing that lacked for me was that they wanted to turn you into a carbon copy of their professors.
Ah,
I'm a free thinker, obviously. I'm on my own
yeah,
path. And
yeah.
so I went and met this guy, and he was from Transylvania before Transylvania went away. He actually escaped with a backpack and a handful of slides. That's how he got
Oh,
out of
wow.
the country. And I met with him, and he told me two things right off the bat. He goes, if I don't like you as a person and I don't think I'd want to hang out and have dinner with you, you're not going to be a good student because it's going to be one on one for 3 years. And the
What?
other one is, yeah, because that's how it is. It's like you're going to be, he's your mentor, and he took one student that year. So I was the only scenic design student. And then the next year, there was just one more student comes in. So it's three at a time. Sometimes he'll do two, but for the most part, it's just one at a time. And so it
Okay.
was very one on one. And then the second thing he said was that I don't want you to be me. I want to nurture the best you that you've got inside you. And I was like,
Mm,
that's who I want to be. I don't want to be anyone else. And when we
right.
teach people nowadays, that's the first thing I say is I'm not trying to make you into me. I'm trying to make the best you that you can be. And so that was my decision to go to graduate school. I met with him, flew out to San Diego, and I was like, yeah, this is where I'm going. And I got accepted. And I was the first person from Nebraska to ever be in the department. And so they'd never had anybody from Nebraska before. They thought we were all yokels, and we ended up, I had a blast out there. It was lonely because I did live by myself off campus, not with anybody else. And I worked too much. I was actually told one day in a design course, they said, why do you always do your homework? And I'm like, that was the weirdest question I think I'd ever been asked in school. I'm like, because
Right.
this is what I was told to do, and I'm here to learn. And
Yeah.
they're like, you need to quit. Sometimes you got to break the rules, Paul. And I'm like, well, I'm paying you stupid money to learn here. So no, how about I'll break the rules when I'm out, but right
Yeah.
now, no.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. Mr. Benzel put that early on
that's right.
in your head. We can't go
100%.
that route. Can't go that route. It's interesting too that there's that shift of mindset of we want you to be the best you can be of who you are versus we're going to structure you and make you do everything the way that we're saying that it needs to be done, like Mr. Benzel did way back.
Hmm.
Um, how did that change in terms of your thought of yourself at that point?
And
Or-
also, I don't think it changed much of
Okay.
how I thought of myself. Yeah, I was at that point, I was already so sure of who I was as a designer, worker. I was a
Okay.
shitty human, but I was a damn good worker. I used
Okay.
to, because I'd say I'm a robot, you know, and I'm a really good machine at doing this kind of stuff, and I've got a really good eye for it, and I'm adaptable, and I've got some nice innovation that comes out. So I don't think it affected me mentally much in that regard. I just knew that I could try and fit in if you wanted me to try and be in a mold, but eventually the mold is going to break. I'm not. It's not gonna. I'm not gonna be that. And I've tried a lot in my life to try and fit in. I've tried to be in organizations. I've tried to do these things, but
Yeah.
once the rules start to become too binding, I'm like, nah, I gotta go. So that's why I work for me.
Believe me, I've understand that intrinsically. I have a hard time being put into constraints of rules and regulations myself. Most of my career has been me doing my own thing. Few times when I've went to work for other people, it works okay because they were in entertainment arenas, but any other scenarios, it was like, no, because I would always see ways that it could be done better and quicker potentially and skip a few of these extra steps that are just taking up time. So I get it. One of the things that I want to ask the question about, because you characterize yourself as being a shitty human, and I haven't got any vibe whatsoever that that is the case. But I'd like to know why you had that perspective at that point in time.
I'm not as shitty as in a bad. I'm just shitty as in I'm a robot. I don't, and for years and years and years, I'm like that's how I viewed myself. Is I beat bop boop bopped my way through life. I didn't form connections with people because connections with people, as my family proved to you, is a weapon to be used against you.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so I was very, and it probably honestly in my undergrad, that's probably half the reason why I wasn't included in that group at the end because I never let them get in. I didn't never let anybody get in. And
sure.
Honestly, it was my wife who proved to me otherwise. We were dating
Okay.
and we were like, we met doing a show, but then we started dating. And a month later, I went to San Diego. She went to Pittsburgh for 3 years for grad school.
Okay.
So we
Gotcha.
spent the first 3 years of our relationship on opposite sides of the country. And then after the first year of grad school, we were at, it was a Christmas break or whatever, and we're at the airport and I'm heading back to San Diego. And I said, hey, why don't, instead of spending all of our money trying to fly back and forth, why don't we just concentrate on the school and we'll get back together, in summers or whatever. And to me, in my brilliant robot mind, it was, let's save money. We can still talk on the phone, all that, but let's not try and break ourselves trying to see each other all the time. But in her mind, as a human being with emotion, she heard he's breaking up with me.
Oh,
And so
wow.
she, and so we left. And then a month later, when I called her up, I'm like, hey, I'd like to come hang out and whatever. I'll come out to Pittsburgh. And she's like, well, why? I already have another boyfriend. And I was like, we're still going out. And she's like, no, you broke up with me. I'm like, I did not. And even to this day, we still joke about this. But I spent an entire summer trying to win her back. And I tell her, and it's the truth, up until her, no person was more important than my work or as my education and
Sure.
me
Yeah.
just bettering myself. She
Yeah.
was the very first person who ended up being more important to me than what I do. And so she
Yeah.
really taught me humanity, which the fact that she married me as a robot and stayed with me for 20 years while I was still just a robot impresses the hell out of me. But, that's, so I think mentally it was never an issue because I wasn't fully there.
Yeah. Yeah. Y- That's amazing. It's beautiful as well because not only did you realize that I really want to be with this person, and you thought you were, but the reality from her side was, no, you messed this up. And
Right.
then you had to spend that summer trying to repair that and win that back over, win her back over, win that trust back over of the fact that no, I didn't, that wasn't what I was trying to do. I was trying to save us some money. But yeah, the testament that 20 plus years of marriage, that says a lot right there in and of
And
itself.
she is my best friend. I mean, as
Yeah.
far as like a human connection goes, she's my best friend. She gets me
Yeah.
better than anyone else, which is awesome. But dealing with the last 2 years has been
Trying.
interesting. It's been
Okay.
for both of us because, here I am, like I'm a rock, and then 2 years ago I'm sitting there balling on an airplane trying to deal with shit from my past, and I'm
Right.
just a wreck, and then even now it bubbles up. If you've been doing therapy long enough,
Oh, yeah.
when
Yeah.
emotion shows up, it doesn't knock on the door, it busts it down. It's like you're dealing with me right now, and you're
Yeah.
like, this is not an opportune time. I don't care, like.
Exactly.
And so I'll just have these moments, and I'm like, I don't know what the hell's going on. And she's like, you're human, and I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm a robot. And she's like, no, no, you're not, and you're gonna deal with this. So she is awesome. She is totally awesome.
Yeah. I imagine she is. I imagine she is. When she went off to Pittsburgh, was that to continue studying for costume design?
Yep, she went out to Carnegie Mellon.
Okay, right on. And the job opportunity scenario, was that in college that you guys had that connection, or was it when you're out in California?
So we each did our own thing and started building up reputation, whatever, on both sides. And then our graduate schools were in the top 10 of theater. And so Yale used to put on something called a clam bake, which is basically at the end of the year when you graduate, all the designers from the top 10 school would all meet in New York City. You'd show off your portfolio, and it was a great way for people to meet other designers and directors and kind of get into the business. And when we showed up there, they only asked one question: East Coast, West Coast, New York, Los Angeles, where are you going? There's no in between. Like the rest of the country does not exist. It's New York City or Los Angeles.
Yes.
And we both grew up in Nebraska around grass and trees. So New York City to us is like a dead city. I know it's full of life, but
Right.
to us it's just too industrial. And so we're like, well, we can at least go out to LA and try our life in LA in the business.
Yeah.
And so we did that after graduate school. So that's where we went out job wise. And then we didn't last long. She hated it. She absolutely hated it. She made it
Okay.
about 8 months, and then she took a summer stock job out in Iowa, and said, "Hey, I got the summer stock job. I'm not coming back. If you'd like to follow me, if you want to stay married, you can pack up the apartment while I'm gone and move back to Nebraska with me, or you can stay here and try and make it on your own."
Mm,
And I was like, "No, it's all right." So I packed up everything and moved back to Nebraska. And she wanted to be around her family.
okay,
Both of our families are here. I always
gotcha.
say I moved back to Nebraska for her family, and that's
Right.
that's what we're here
Based
for.
on the
And
storyline, we get it.
yeah, yeah. And so we've been here for 25 years now, and I the amount of times I've either been interviewed by somebody or I make a newspaper article or because I've done some weird things in my life and gotten some acclaim for it, they always say, "How are you doing this in Nebraska?" Or it's always this guy in Nebraska who does this cool. I'm like, it doesn't matter where the hell you're at. You can be awesome anywhere, you know.
Exactly.
Uh, as far as the entertainment world goes, I'm ideally placed because I can work on both coasts in the same amount of deadlines. So
Yeah.
I'm not worried about it. So it's been interesting. But yeah, so we tried the LA thing as far as career goes. And she did some movies, she did some television, she did all that. But the reality is now she is the head designer in all of Omaha for costumes. So she is the top of the tier. So she's doing great. She's got a museum exhibit and all this other stuff. So she is doing exactly what she wants to do. And
Very
I'm
cool.
doing whatever crazy adventure I'm on from my basement and I get to raise my three kids.
Nice. When you first touched down in San Diego, did you have a sense that this might be a place where I can actually spread my wings? Or was it a definitely a culture shock component leaving the Cornhusker state?
I It was eye opening. Again, I'm a workaholic, man. There's no other way to put it. I'm a workaholic. I love to do like if I get lost in a project, I can spend 14 hours on something and not blink twice. Like that's just who I
Okay.
am.
Yeah.
If that puts me on a spectrum, then I'm definitely on that spectrum. When I got out to California, what I realized is I have farmers' work ethic, and they
Ah,
do not. Like,
yes.
oh, sun's up, time to work. You know, it's like I'm up at 5, I'm ready to go.
Right.
And as a TA in graduate school, and I had kids roll in 11:30 in flip-flops and a bikini because they're going to the beach. They just
Yeah.
have to be there.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Where's your assignment?" "Man, we'll get to it." I'm like, "No." I'm a by the rules kind of guy, you know, like
Yes.
in that laid back personality. It drove me crazy for years. It
Okay.
took me a while to understand it. I mean, and again, as a robot, you understand things analytically. So
Right.
to me, it was a puzzle to be solved. And so, how do I work with that? How do I get the result that I want from people who do not work the way that I want them to?
Mm,
And so, it was a challenge in that. And what I learned was that if I gave 50% of my normal, I'm still giving 110% of their daily. And
right.
so I was like ahead of the game. So when they would give me like little morsels of opportunity, I would turn them into feasts. And
Yeah.
they didn't understand. They're like, "You did too much." But I'm like, "But I didn't because it cost you nothing. It just cost me time. But now I've produced this beautiful thing for
Right.
nothing." And it's just a matter of work ethic. And it led me to opportunities that I would not have otherwise gotten. I mean, I won the Princess Grace Award, which is a huge honor. It's actually the Prince of Monaco came over through a giant ball at the Waldorf Astoria in New York City. So I took my
Oh, wow.
wife to a Prince's ball. I'd
Yeah.
love to tell
Very
that
cool.
story. But like one person won, 3,500 people entered, one person won. I happened to be that person for that year in design. I mean, it was an awesome opportunity, but it's because my work ethic was so high that when I show a portfolio, they're like, no kid should be doing this. I was nominated for so many contests for design and time again, and my wife and I still joke about this. They would have these apex designers, these people who are like crushing it in their career, and they would be the judges and they would go in and they'd talk to them. And there was one for the Kennedy Center American College Theater Festival that I was up for design award for, and I didn't win. I came in second. But I was asking the guy who is a well-known designer who I ended up working with later on in my career. But I asked him, I said, "So what?" Because I want to know, what didn't I do? Why didn't I win this? And he goes, "It's because you don't need it." And I'm
Interesting.
like, "The hell I don't."
Right. Exactly.
Like, what? He's like, "You don't need it. You'll be fine." So we gave it to the person who needed it. I'm like, that's a shitty way to approach that. But it's been consistent in my life. It's like you'll be fine. You seem fine. You'll be fine. We're going to give it to somebody else. And so,
Wow.
yeah, that's been a theme, a recurring
Uh-huh.
theme in my life that I've noticed that it's if I don't make my own path, no one will help me because you look fine. And honestly, it comes down to business as well. A lot with me in what I do is because I'm not a squeaky wheel and because I'm confident in what I do, a lot of people think, oh, you're doing fine. And so when I was first starting out as a freelance artist, and I was not doing fine because you're new to the work, it was hard for me to get customers because they're like, you seem like you're doing great.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's because I'm not online like crying and I'm not like throwing a fit. I'm like trying to be presentable and trying to be an expert in this field. But
Right.
we could all use customer. So yeah,
Exactly.
so that recurring theme thing seems to be it happens more and more. And I'm running into that right now with this whole thing with Gamify Business because I'm a coach because I want to help other people who were where I was trying to get to where they're going.
Yeah.
And what I've found is people are like, you sound so put together, like one, we can't afford you, or two, you've got enough customers. You seem to have your shit together, so
Uh-huh.
therefore you don't need us. And I'm like, no, buddies, come on. I can help everybody, and it's so that's it's a struggle. It's been a struggle and it continues to be one.
That's wild. That's wild to me. And it may just be the fact that as another creative, talking to a creative, another creative that has, for the most part, forged my own careers, essentially, whether it's in the fashion industry, whether it was in the jewelry industry, whether it's in just basic graphic design, layout stuff, branding, that type of stuff, anything that was dealt with entertainment, it was because I just stepped into it and said, I can do this.
Mhm.
Can I do this? Will you let me do this? And it was, yeah, sure, go ahead. And I'm like, cool, and run.
Yeah,
It's wild to me that has been part of your experience, and I hate it for you. And I hope it somebody realizes what the hell's going on because you, from just from this conversation, the value that you have, Paul, as a fellow, just as a fellow creative, it's huge. Like
thanks.
I see it, it's huge for me. It's huge. I've appreciated this conversation immensely in the time that we've been on here together.
Thank you.
And like I said earlier on, like I would never even think twice if we were in the same city about being, hey, Paul, what's up, man? Can grab a drink or get a coffee or whatever.
Yeah,
Like I would, I'm that kind of person when I find somebody that's got a creative circuitry that might be similar to me. Like I want to see what kind of electrical volts will start amplifying, right?
yeah,
I want to see that Nikola Tesla thing take off and the whole circuitry is going off wild. That's oh my gosh, that's mind-boggling in a way that you're getting that experience of you're going to be fine or you're too you know too much or you're too expensive or that's wild. And especially with the way things are going in the world and the way that at least there's some bit of realization that kids are not learning the same way. So we've got to cater to that and we got to help nurture that in a way from whatever perspective they think it needs to be. But thinking differently has always been around.
oh yeah,
Just everybody else has been oblivious to it. And they've thought that it needs to go in this one direction. But the people that at this point in time that are saying, okay, they're on a spectrum, they think differently, this neurodivergence term that's coming up, which I still haven't fully grasped the understanding of what it is because it's like, it's from my perspective, it's too broad. It's like you just think differently. Why does that make you get this label now?
I
Um,
agree.
I don't. I don't fully understand it. I try to respect it and for the most part accommodate it, but I don't see it as a label that needs to be there. You're just who you are.
I agree with that as well. Every day it's like, well, I mean, this new group, and they were like, oh, you're autistic, and I'm like, I'm Paul.
Right.
Okay, let's just stop there. It's fine.
Right.
We're all different people. I mean, your experience shapes who you are, and how. And but I also know from having kids and being around kids enough is that there's a part of you that is who you are from conception. Like my youngest has been who he is. We call him quiet. He is an internalizer, and he didn't speak for the first 3 years, and they thought that he had something developmentally wrong with him. He's
Right.
not. He's gifted. He just didn't want to talk to you because he didn't have
Right.
anything to say that was worthwhile, and he didn't want you to converse with him because he didn't think what you had to say was worthwhile. And he's 11 years old now, and we tell his teachers, I say, at a certain point during the day, he's going to be done with people. And you just got to
Yeah.
let him go sit by himself. And if you don't, he'll act out, he'll thrash
Right.
out. And that's who he is.
Right.
And we can either beat that out of him, punish that out of him, whatever, or we can be like, that's who you are. And you will always be that. And you can hide it, you can mask it, you can put it under layers of other stuff. But when it comes down to it, it's who you are. And
Right.
I am Paul from the day I was born. Like, it's just who I am. And either, you can accept it or you cannot. And that's, it's just how we got to deal with it. And so I agree with you. I don't think we need to label everything, but I think it also helps people to understand the, oh, that means they're this, so that I can then put them in this category of understanding instead of
Right.
going through the effort of actually trying to understand person as opposed
Yes.
to people.
Yes.
And I find that I am not racist in one bit, but I know some really shitty human beings, and they're
Correct.
all different colors. But I would never once say this applies to everyone. I'm like,
Yeah.
you're a shitty human. That's on you. You prove that to me. But for the most part, that's why I'm an optimist. Like everybody that I meet is a good person until you
Yes.
show me otherwise, and that's just something like I don't know. So I don't. I agree with you on that. I don't need to put it into a box. I
Yeah.
don't put anything in a box. Stay out of the boxes, kids.
Exactly. Well, and to your point, assholes are just assholes.
Correct?
It don't matter what color you are,
No.
and it doesn't even really come into play essentially if you just understand assholes are going to be assholes regardless.
Yeah. Just,
And they're everywhere.
oh
It's
yeah.
it's not like it's uncommon. They're everywhere.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Oh man, as you're finally getting to the end of graduate school and you're about to have to start getting these clients to come on board, what is your thought process in terms of, all right, I've got to step out and try to make this happen. This is what I'm going to do that.
Well, interestingly enough, I got my graduate degree as a scenic and properties and costume designer. That's where I got my degree. And my school, University of California, San Diego, is attached to the La Jolla Playhouse, which is it's called a Lort B House, but it's a fairly decent sized theater, and it's a very nationally recognized theater. They do a lot of good work. And so,
Mhm.
as a student at that school, you would intern with them a lot. And so, my final year there, they gave me a couple shows to design, but I was also assisting all the designers that were there. And one of the designers that I was assisting, his name was John Arnone. At the time, he had like 3 or 4 different shows on Broadway, which for a scenic designer is kind of like the apex in the United States. You're a Broadway designer, that's pretty huge.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I was talking to him one day. I said, John, so what's it like being, I just got out of grad school. This is what I want to do. What's it like being the top? And I will thank him to this day for this. He was honest and he said it sucked. It sucked because he's on the road 48 weeks out of the year, going to all these different theaters. He has an apartment in New York he's never at that he's paying for. He's got 6 assistants constantly working on paperwork because he's got to take every job that comes along because they don't pay. Theater
Right.
doesn't pay. And I was like, wow, I wish I would have known that before I went to grad school for this, but it was good information to have. And
Yeah.
so it really, he goes, if you want to settle down, this is not the job for you.
Okay.
And I was like, wow, okay, cool. Then what could I do? And at the time, I was working on another show. And as a scenic designer, when we're designing it, we build a scale model, which is a tiny representation of the big thing.
Yep.
And what that allows people to do is to see what you want it to look like. And the show that I was working on at the time had about 100 chairs in it. And I was hand cutting all of these little chairs out of paper and making them. And it was killing me. And I was like, there's got to be a better way to do this. And I love to go shopping because I love to walk and look at everything.
Yeah.
Absorb it all. And I was in the
Yeah.
greeting card aisle and I noticed that white cards had little brown edges. And I go, that looks like that's burned away. And I was like, and this is before anybody had a personal laser, by the way. This is like
Okay.
way
Yeah.
back in the 90s. And so I started doing some research and I called Hallmark and I'm like, who does your cards? There's got to be something that's burning this away. And they're like, oh, it's laser etched. I'm like, okay, who? And so they gave me the company that does it for them. And it was in a warehouse. It was a warehouse sized machine. It was probably like a block and a half long that would feed in paper and laser cut it, but it would do a page every 3 seconds. And
Okay.
so I thought, can I design this paper furniture that's flat that you can figure out how to fold and make it three-dimensional so that we could build these so I don't have to cut out 100 chairs again. It would come pre-cut. All you got to do is color it and cut it out and fold it and put it together. And
Yeah.
so I designed that as a product called Pop Out Furniture. So I designed that right at the same time John was telling me this isn't a viable opportunity. And so I was like, I invented my first product. And so then I went to trade shows and I was like, how am I going to find clients? I'm not. I'm going to let my work speak for me. And so I'd go to these trade shows and I, again, don't mind being on stage. So I go and I do this big thing and we'd make silly videos to go with it. And I'd sit in the booth and I'd talk to every single person that was there as long as I was behind the table. That was my shield as a person.
Right. Yep.
But I could sell to anybody. And I sold so many sheets of cutout paper. You'd be surprised to the point that I had a company come out and say, we want to carry it for you. So they wrote me a check for $250,000. And I was like, that was huge for me,
Yeah.
especially coming out of grad school where I think the year before I made $19,000. So like that's a huge jump. So you're like, holy crap. And so I did that for a while. And then I was like, there's something here. And then then I was at one of these trade shows and I saw a booth that had lasers for home use. And
Yeah.
I saw the writing on the wall. And I'm a guy who will bend, not break. So I don't stand firm. So I'm like, this is changing. I got to change too. So I changed tactics and started making other things. And I started doing that. And just what I found was that I would put it out online. Take any opportunity I could, and that versatility has been the thing that I've become known for. Is that I don't sell me, I sell my skill. So, but I'll admit it took me probably 10 years of that career before I'd even call myself an artist. I just call myself a maker
Really?
or a
Okay.
builder, because
Gotcha.
when you say artist, and it still happens to me today. So what do you do? I'm an artist. Oh, I'm like, what the hell's that about? I'm like, oh,
Yes.
it's that starving art. Oh, so you
Yep.
don't make any money. And it's like, no, I
Right.
make six figures, kiddos. Like I do well. Like,
Yes. Yes.
um, no. And so I like to break that. And so that's why I help people. It's because I'm like, no, you can do this as a living. This is something you do. So as far as like trying to figure out where or how to become the customer, I never thought about it in that regard. I thought of what can I put out that is mine and is, excuse me, it's fucking awesome that people will
Yeah.
want it.
Yeah.
And that was really how I approached it. And so for 20 years, that's really what I've done is I create things that are fucking awesome and I put them out there and people are like, that's pretty awesome. Can I get one or can I get something similar? And
Right.
the answer is always yes. So when Disney calls and like, we'd like this or Tonight Show or whatever, they're like,
Yeah.
we want something that's fucking awesome. I'm your guy. But that doesn't fit on a business card. So I call myself Santa. I don't call myself Santa for Nerds. Somebody called me that and it stuck because it fits on
Okay.
a business card. But Santa for Nerds, it's like we all understand what Santa is. We all know what a nerd is. So Santa for Nerds, it's this magical, it's a conversation starter. But again, it puts my work forward. I'm this magical being that can create whatever you want. You don't need to know
Right.
who I am. And so I hide a lot behind the work.
Yeah.
That's a protection thing, the table's
Right.
still there when I do trade shows, it's that
Yeah.
separation. I'm a character within what's really funny is like this setup here, I even have, like I have my outfit that I wear as the barkeep. So this
Oh,
is
wow.
because in Gamify Business, we do an RPG. And so where you meet your group is you meet them in the bar, is at the tavern. And so I'm the tavern keeper, the game master. And
Okay.
again, I sit behind a bar and that's my protection. And
Right.
I understand this. But what's been interesting is moving into the coaching consulting, there's no product. The product is what comes out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Very different selling,
Right.
very difficult because there's no laurels you can rest on. I can't just make something, put an image of it on the internet and let it sit there for 20 years and then somebody will eventually find it. I'm the thing. And
Yeah.
so that's been probably one of the hardest things that I've had to do, is to switch gears in that regard and really try and sell me and not the product.
Yeah. You, yeah, you're having to shift from the product to the experience
Mhm.
that you've garnered over the years. And a lot of times as creatives, we don't always put those things up, especially just from our conversation, us understanding that people are just people that have cool jobs, right? They're not superstars, they're not celebrities to us
Right.
because we understand a different side of who they are. But in order for us to do the business side of things, we have to bring some of those things back up to the surface again and be like, yeah, I did this, right?
That you bring that up, because like I hate mentioning Disney. I hate mentioning, because it's like I'm not trying to do this. But you're right. It's the degree you get. It gives you pedigree.
Yes,
And I hate it, because I'm
yeah,
like, no, I just do awesome shit, dude. It's like,
right.
no, but you got to say those key things. And it's been beat into me by so many different coaches. It's like, you lead with this, because that gives you a pedigree of expertise. And people will trust you more because you had that opportunity. I'm like, okay, I guess. Sure.
Exactly, exactly. I want to give you a little bit of perspective that you may find very interesting. As I was reading that off for you, and that's the very first point on your introduction, right? I had this feeling of discomfort that was within me that was probably me tapping into your discomfort instantaneously because I'm reading it and I'm like, why does this feel so uncomfortable for me to say this about you? That's what I'm supposed to do as the host. Like I when I started doing podcasting and wanting to talk to individuals who've done fantastic things in the creative community or individuals that are just on their beginning journey in the creative community,
Hmm.
I didn't want to have to put the pressure on them to pitch themselves to the audience, right? So I'm like, let me take this on, let me do this for them. And a lot of times, that initial response is, oh, wow, like I don't that doesn't even sound like me. Like I don't even think
Right.
like that. Right?
Oh, I'd love to meet that cool guy.
Exactly.
That's what I always hear. Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm like, let me take this on. Let me bear this burden for them so they don't have to try and go through that discomfort because I don't want the conversation to start like that. I don't want to put them in a discomforting place to begin with. Let me take this on. But what I found fascinating as I'm reading that off, I was picking that up from you already that you don't really want to do that about yourself and put that out there that yes, you've done this. But to counter that in terms of what you're having to do now and sell yourself, that is all of those years of experience. That's that 30-year span of what you've done that is now interpreted and given out as an expertise to individuals that you're trying to bring in and trying to help and trying to guide and move along further a little bit easier potentially because
Yeah.
you're giving them this valuable information that you weren't necessarily given early on. You were told by Mr. Bentel, look, this is the way it's got to be. It's got to go this way and this otherwise you're not going to make it. Start moving ahead, you get a professor who becomes a mentor just for the simple fact that it's just the two of you in a room for 4 hours. And he's starting to see, whoa, wait a second, this kid's different. He's thinking different. He's more inquisitive. He wants to know things. And he probably saw your work ethic as well. And the fact that you stayed there until you didn't need to be there anymore, or you decided you were going to leave. Moving forward, you get a little bit more information from another higher up in the industry that says, this sucks. And I'm at the top. It sucks, right? Not enough time in the day for me to do all the things. I've got all these people helping me out. I don't have enough time. I'm spending money that I shouldn't be spending just to keep a place back in the city. And now you're trying to pass that on as well, based on
Mhm.
all your years of experience. So, what hopefully people that are hearing this will also find you, because all this information is going to be put into the description of the episode, and they'll have links and all that stuff. But hopefully it will help along with the story of your life and things that you've experienced. Hopefully that'll allow them to maybe connect a little bit easier. That's my hope, anyways. Because if they don't realize what you have going on and can't see it, then maybe they just don't need to be working with you, anyways.
That's a good place. Yeah, know your customers for sure. And but when you're starting out, you can't be that picky. And I think that's
For
a
sure.
hard lesson to learn.
It
As I've
is.
gotten older, it's nice to be able to say no because you get a feel for people pretty easy on early on. And what I found interesting, especially in the realm of coaching and consulting, is that a lot of the people who coach and consult do it because they want to be, it's ego driven. It's they don't
Yes.
it's they're there to prove how good and smart they are. And I'm not that person. I don't, again, I'm not trying to get you to be me. I want you to be the best you. And I
Yeah.
come from a Santa point of view. I'm here to help you become magical, okay?
Yeah.
But the thing is there's I come against so many people who cannot believe that is possible. Somebody that where is the self-serving in this? And I'm like, I'm not here to serve. Like I play a barkeep because I want to show to you that I'm not the hero in the adventure. You are.
Yeah.
I'm the guy in the cave who hands you a sword. It says dangerous outside, take this. That's who I am. I sit in a cave all day long. Don't worry about me. I'm good. But I've found over and over again that people in a position to lead cannot believe somebody else isn't willing to step on people to get there. And so I literally having this conversation with my wife last week is like, I will never be rich because I can't be that selfish. And I would rather lift everyone else up
Yeah.
than to walk on any of them to get ahead. And
Yep.
so, but
And that's commendable. It's commendable because ideally that is the way everybody should be. And unfortunately, based on the industry that you've been a part of for the
oh yeah,
last 30 plus years, that's not the case at all. That industry and across the board, whether it's theater, movies, sitcoms, music, entertainment, all of the things, the thought process is I'll step on anybody to get to the top as fast as I can, regardless.
yeah.
So if I can climb up over your shoulder because you're just in front of me in line and move up the ladder, then I'm going to do that. It's very few and far between people like ourselves who are doing these things because we just have a desire for people to have a better understanding
Yeah.
and hopefully be able to move a little bit easier along in life because of the road we've traveled.
I think at the end of the day, I'd rather fill a stadium full of people's lives who I've touched in a positive way than to put a dollar on every seat that I've
Yes.
made. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, because in the end of it, whenever this game is up, you will be remembered by only those who you've left behind.
Yeah.
And if the only thing that you've left behind are the people you've stepped on, what the hell's the
Exactly.
point? You know?
Exactly.
So
With
choose your
that,
path.
No, for sure, for sure. With that, and because of the discomfort, I'm going to jump past all of the people that you've worked with and not have to make you be put on the
Name
spot.
names.
Yeah, the name names.
I could drop some names if you want some names. If you want to give me the rundown, I can talk about some of the people I've worked with. Whoopi Goldberg, Alicia Keys. I've
Right,
worked with. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. All right. We're done with that.
right on. All right, we got those out of the way. Cool. I want to move into this way of thinking that you've developed to be able to give other creatives a better opportunity to create a foundation for themselves. How did this idea come about?
It was so my entire career is for Paul Pape Designs, the Santa for Nerds job. That entire career has been based on customization. So every job that I get is different. I don't do the
Yeah.
same thing twice. And so for 20 years, I've customized everything. When I decided to go out into coaching and consulting, the very first thing I said was you cannot help everybody individually. You have to just come up with an idea that's blanketable, you throw it out on there, and then hopefully it sticks. And the first thing I did was say, nope, I'm going to customize everything that I do. And so I was actually working with this company, and it was three people, and they were grossing about $1.2 million a year. Pretty good. They were netting about $50,000. So
Oh,
there's a
wow.
huge discrepancy. And so when they found me, they've been working for about 13 years, and they found me and they're like, we need help. And can you help us? I'm like, absolutely, let's do this. And so I went out to meet them. They were living in Salt Lake City. And we're sitting there talking, and I'm sitting around the table, and I said, okay, so I want everybody to tell me what you do in the business. And they said, well, we do everything. I'm like, well, you can't do everything. Somebody has to be in charge of something. And so I said, how about this? Tomorrow, they're big gamer nerds. One guy used to work at Blizzard. He's on World of
Okay.
Warcraft, huge nerdy people, my kind of
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And so I said, how about this? Tomorrow I'm going to come back and we're going to play Dungeons and Dragons Business Edition. And instead of like having a ranger or a warrior, you're going to be your role in the business. And instead of slaying dragons, we're going to come up with business issues that you're going to encounter, but only the person who has the expertise is allowed to spearhead the challenge. And they're like, oh, okay. And again, just making this up. I don't know. So I came back the next day and we played for about 4 hours. And as we're playing it, and I'm talking about actual business things that we have to do, like return on ad spend and, what's your ROI? What is, all of these terminologies that went way over their head and they didn't understand. I was turning into game terminology on the fly. And I was just
Okay.
seeing light bulbs going off. And they're like, we get this. And I'm like, cool. And from there, they're now making 800, almost $900,000 gross off of their
Yeah.
1.2 net. Huge bonus because now they understand it. And I was like, I translated business into a terminology that they understood, into a language that they could easily access
Yeah.
because we're all familiar with gaming. And so that was the seed that got me thinking about Gamify Business. And I was like, well, what if we take, because I'm not a linear thinker, I've said that before, I'm a cloud thinker, and a lot of creatives are cloud thinkers too. And when we
Yeah.
say, take all that cloud stuff and shove it in this box and just sit inside this linear thinking process, we go crazy and we
Right.
find every excuse to not do it. And so when we say, okay, now you're going to run a business, so now you got to sit down and do business things the business way, they don't. They either shy away from it, they neglect it, or they give up on the business. And so I thought, well, what if we instead made it fun, made it a campaign? Let's make it an adventure. And so that's where the book came from. And I was like, okay, well, what's the first thing that we need to do on an adventure? Well, you need to have a character that you play. Well, the character's got to be you because this is real life. So I was like, well, how do I create a character sheet of you? Well, I started leaning back onto all of my experience and I realized that most entrepreneurs or artists or creatives have this flaw. And the flaw is ego. We cannot do anything wrong. We are perfect. We know we're
Right.
not, but we have to put on that air because as an entrepreneur, if somebody cracks the foundation, it all crumbles because it's all held together with cobwebs. We know that, right? Like we don't know what the hell we're doing.
Right.
We're making it up. And so I was like, okay, a character sheet allows you to, because with a character sheet, you got to know your flaws, you got to know your strengths and your weaknesses. But we don't want to admit what those are. But a character sheet separates us just far enough away that we can say, I don't have these deficiencies, my character does, even though the character is you. And so we explore that and then we find out. And it's not like rolling a die and saying I have 12 strength because that's not how life works. What we do is we look at a sliding scale of extremes. So are you a rigid thinker or are you more free floating thinker? Where do you fall on that spectrum? And then what
Mm.
we do is once we have that character sheet, you now know who you are as a person and as a business and what you want to accomplish. And then we ask two questions. And the questions are really simple. What are you passionate about? Everybody can answer that one. We all have the things that we're passionate about. And the second question is the hard one. It's what do you do different with that passion than anyone else? And if you can answer that, then you've got a business. So now you got a character and a business. And then we can build it all around there. And we do that by creating games. Everything in business, everything you have to do in your job is a game, it's a task. And we are very used to, as gamers, performing mundane tasks over and over again, but we're willing to do it in a game because we get a reward. I
Right.
play World of Warcraft a lot, and there's sometimes like, go collect 10 cherries. Okay. Why would I want to do this? Oh, you'll get a new piece of armor. Okay, cool. And it's the same thing with business. There's a lot of mundane tasks that we have to do repeatedly over and over again. But if we don't give ourselves a reason to do them, cloud thinkers are not going to do them. We're going to
Right.
neglect them. And so what I did is I built in a system in which you are rewarding yourself for these accomplishments. And what that does is it releases dopamine. Just like playing a video game releases dopamine when you accomplish something, now we're doing that in your real life.
Hmm.
And then from there we go on and we do challenges and we look for group. We go find people who would be a good group for you. And experience has proven over and over again that creatives surround themselves with like-minded people. But the
Yes.
problem is in business, worst setup ever. So, like, you don't want to be around people who are just like you because you all think the exact same way. You want to find people who are going to be counter to you. And you
Yeah.
may not be best friends. You may never get a drink together outside of work, but let me tell you, they'll be your best wingman in business because they're going to help to round you out. And then, but if you don't know who you are from your character sheet, you're not going to know what you need to get. You're not going to need to know who those people are. And so we go find a group and then we go out there and we do challenges. And the challenges are set up as monster hunts because why shouldn't they be? You need to go slay the dragon because you need to get a bank loan. Well, what do we need to do to get that bank loan? We need to prep, just like you would with going to kill a dragon. And
Yeah.
then at the end, the reward is money because the dragon's hoard. It's all out there. It's a framework of it changes the way we think about it, but then it removes that mystique of business terminology because think about it, there's a guy who actually a client of mine who used to mow lawns in high school and then he
Okay.
hated school so he dropped out, he got his GED, but he still runs that business. It's been 35 years. He's expanded, he's got employees, he does all this other stuff, but he's like, I didn't go to school for this. I'm like, no, because you don't need to. You don't need an MBA to do this. You just
Right.
need to know how to find customers, how to do a good job, how to advertise, the standard business stuff. And he figured
Yeah.
it out through screwing up, like we all do. So what if I
Right.
gave you a book that got rid of all the screw ups and you just now have a map, but the map is in a language you understand? It's a no-brainer. So that's really where it came from. I give you the whole spiel, but that's where it came from. That's how it evolved. And the thing that I've noticed, so that's the first book. That's this one here, which is the Creative Player's Handbook to Business.
Okay.
But when I'm teaching this to people, I've realized that one, people do not think like I do, and they don't work as fast as I do. And so I came up with a second book called The Game Master's Guide because we found that, especially for creatives who are trying to sell their work, is that people don't buy products, they buy the person behind the product. I have an expression, it's quit selling your shit, sell yourself.
Yeah.
When they're on the red carpet, they don't ask, what are you wearing? Because the answer would always be pants. The answer is, who are you wearing? Well, why does
Mm.
that matter? Because we're looking for the artist behind it. So
Yeah.
instead of going, and especially as a creative, we're going to be selling our stuff in the age of Amazon and Walmart, where it's going to be more than $1. We're not mass producing this stuff. We're doing something that is bespoke. It is special. It's a magic item. That's what you're
Yeah.
creating. And people are like, well, magic isn't real. I'm like, bullshit. If you've ever seen me work and create something out of nothing that shouldn't exist, that's a magic item because you
Yeah.
can't get it anywhere else. And there's so many creatives out there, and creatives aren't just necessarily artists. I've seen chefs who are creative. I've seen actuaries who are creative. What you do with your skill set is the magic. And people need
Yeah.
to pay for that, but they're not going to say, "Oh, you made an omelet. Oh, that's a $60 omelet because it's eggs and cheese and some ingredients." No, they'll be like,
Right.
"That chef who spent 30 years perfecting this omelet, and when you
Yeah.
put it in your mouth, it is the best fucking eggs you've ever had."
Yeah.
That's where the money comes from. And so so I'm not eating an omelet, I'm eating his omelet. And it's the
Right.
same thing. So creatives need to get past that. And so a lot of this teaches that story, the story behind it. how to tell your story to get people to want to not, you're not selling. Don't say buy, buy, buy. It's tell your story, and they'll say gimme, and that's the
Right.
difference. It's a huge mind shift. So learning how to tell your story, to be comfortable sitting on a 2.5 hour podcast spilling your guts about your past, but it's being comfortable enough to say that because it's who I am, and it is literally what makes me as good as I am,
Yes.
as you're well aware. And so that's the point. So that's what the second book teaches you. And I come in and I do this live as well, but these are self-led products that you could get on to do that on your own. But that's what I want people to understand, is that you are the hero in your own adventure.
Right.
So the slogan for Gamify is business is an adventure. Don't be an NPC. Don't be a non-playable character. Be the hero in your own adventure. But just understand that every person that you're next to is also the hero of their own adventure as well.
Yeah.
So we're all in it together, but don't neglect it. Don't skirt life by just sitting by and being idle. Command it, take the initiative, but recognize that everyone's on their own mission.
Yeah. That was amazing. It was concise, very palatable. And also, too, from my perspective, based on the way that you started talking about what you're doing, the two books behind you allow it to be more accessible for an artist who may not be able to spend five, six, seven, eight, 10,000 plus dollars to work with you one on one.
Yep.
You've figured out, okay, I need to break this down so that it's the same information going out, maybe not with all of the bells and whistles, but it's the baseline and it's at a little lower price point so more people can have access to it. And
And that's the truth. Yeah.
right,
Because I want everyone to be able to do, and that's the thing, lift everyone up. It's don't put it so high, so top tier that only the elite have access. I
right,
want the mom who's working 3 jobs, who really has who wants to get out of it and do this thing, to have the ability to focus enough, clarity and accessibility. And it's
yeah.
like, yeah, so spend $50. Best $50 you'll ever spend.
Oh, for sure. It beats 30,000 going to school, right?
Correct.
And
Correct.
then
Or
just
hiring a coach for 10. Yeah, I
yeah,
know.
and then deciding, at the end of the year, like I gotta fucking change my
Yeah.
degree.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna be able to finish this one. Yeah, I did. Are you familiar with Gary Vaynerchuk at all? Okay, so I was watching a little podcast thing that he was doing yesterday, and he was talking about his V friends scenario, and he told the person that he was talking to, he's like, go on the V friends and do this quiz, and it's going to spit out the character or the V friend that most resonates with you. And I've been watching him since probably I would say 2011, 2012-ish. And I think I have every one of his books that he's put out, but I've never read them completely. Never read them because I don't have the capacity to stay focused on the words. I have
Yep.
difficulty focusing on words, but I always try to pay attention to what he's doing. And I was like, I've seen him building this V Friends thing out and these characters and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, let me go and check out the link that he just sent. And the character that it came up for me based on this little questionnaire that goes through the mill, right, was the gifted gopher. And what the gifted gopher represents is the real reward is seeing others rise. And I think that is very applicable to this conversation that we've had today is that ultimately that's where we get our joy
Agreed.
is watching other people be able to move up the ladder. Like yes, there's that component of us like you told that judge at one point in time like What do you mean I don't need it? Yes, I do. I need a little bit of that accolade to
Right.
keep me moving forward. I need some of that. And, everybody just thinks we'll be fine. They make their own path. But, as those sensitive individuals that the creative is, and it's sensitive in multifaceted ways, we do need a bit of that assurance along the way. And throwing your wife some flowers at this point in the conversation, the fact that she's been able to be by your side for this 20 plus years and help you navigate along with an understanding of who you are and a person that sees you and recognizes you and has been able to support you through your creative journey, as well as vice versa with her own creative journey, which we didn't even get into that, but I always find it fascinating when creatives have a spouse that is as creative as they are in some form or fashion. It
Wish her
fascinates.
parents had that same mentality. It was like,
Right.
oh, two artists, you're gonna be poor for the rest of your life.
Yeah. But, we go on to prove them wrong and do
Yep.
different things. Is there any piece of magical nugget that we may have not touched on that you would want to leave the audience with at this point in the conversation that may encourage them or interest them in the direction of one or two of those books behind you?
Unlike a game, we do not have three lives. This is your shot.
Yeah.
And don't let it pass you by. I mean, that idea that you have, that thing that you wanted to do that you'll get to next time, just do it. The worst that can happen is it doesn't succeed, but you've made the effort. You've tried. And that's the best thing. Humanity elevates itself through creativity. That's it. And we become better through creative use. And like what we have as people, all of the great inventions that we had comes from a creative mind. Don't sit on that. You have your experience, everything that you've done in your life that makes you who you are will give you an insight that no one else can replicate. Those ideas are what make you special. Don't sit on those. Take that step. Get on that stage. Do a TEDx talk. Make something. Just take that step. Be creative. And the key to it is it's not about fame and fortune. It's about
Right.
following a passion. And if you stand behind your passion, the rest will come. So don't worry about if, and if you only affect one person's life, that person that you affect will affect two, and they'll affect two more, and it ripples down. It's not about changing the world at once. It's about changing the world one person at a time. And so don't be afraid to get out there and try because it's that fear of failure which keeps us where we're at. It's why we're in this fucked up timeline we're in. So step out of that and just try because you'd be surprised what you can accomplish when you just take that step.
Yeah, that was fantastic. That was fantastic. I totally appreciate that, Paul. And I appreciate you for coming on, sharing your story, getting vulnerable at points. And one of the things that I always want to leave the audience with is just a simple reminder of listen to your heart, but also be kind to your mind.